Welcome, everyone. This is the DTA number 2, and tonight's subject is club treasurers. So I'd like to welcome everyone who comes in and looks and watches this later on. We don't have a lot of people here tonight, but we do have Jake Almborg, who's our district budget person, and he is going to talk to you about things you need to know as a club treasurer to make you a better treasurer and also to make you so that you can take care of your club and keep them out of trouble. So Jake, your screen is yours. You can go ahead and share and go ahead and start.
Okay, well, I'd like to welcome any of you who view this Zoom call later. I've been the district treasurer for now 6 years, and I've initially thought I was only going to be doing it for 1 year, but it has grown over the time from 1 year to 6. And over the time, I've learned some things, and I want to share those with you. One of the nice things about Rotary, particularly as it pertains to the treasurer's position, you have a lot of flexibility. We have 53 different clubs in the district, and as long as you stay within the parameters of the Constitution required by Rotary, they give you a lot of flexibility on how you set up your individual accounts and things like that. But what I would like to do is I'd like to go through a series of 20 slides that I put together, which I think cover some really important points that district treasurers need, club treasurers need to be aware of in terms of the impact they have on your club. So if I can go through those 20 slides, I'll point out some highlights of those slides, and then we'll come back on an individual basis to ask if you have any questions on any one of those slides. So let's hit the slides, if you will. Okay. I hope that all of you can see the first slide here, which is the slide that's been dedicated for club treasurers throughout the district. And I'll move right on to the next slide. What I'm hoping is that we're targeting not only new treasurers, but also some of you that have been in these jobs for many, many years. I've noticed in the 6 years that I've been on board that clubs typically try to get a treasurer who's willing to serve about 3 years, because it takes time to learn the different nuances of your club. And I'm finding that we usually have very, very talented people, CPAs, people that work in banking, who clubs ask to be their treasurers. And then if they're smart, the club will ask that person to stay on for a commitment of up to 3 years or so, because this is the one position of the 3 that I think it's important that you have some continuity in. So we have 2 target audiences, brand new treasurers who've never done this before, as well as returning treasurers from year to year. One of the things that I've thought about for some time is how important is your job? I think the most important thing is that you're able to deliver financial information to your team, to your club members. And you've got responsibility of accounting for the money that's been entrusted to you. And then as a nonprofit, we have certain IRS requirements. And I think it's very important that you focus on a couple key dates. Every year, Rotary requires every club to identify 5 key officers that are reported to Rotary International. Of those 5, these 3 are, I think, the most important: your president, your club secretary, and your club treasurer. And Rotary agrees with that importance because they say to every club, we need these people identified by 31 December of the year ending before the beginning of the new Rotary year. And in addition to the three listed, you have your president-elect and your immediate past president. Those are the five that are always being recorded every year at Rotary International, because Rotary wants to make sure they have a listing of who are the people, the key people in your club. Now, it's obvious. Your job is to pay the bills. But what I want to concentrate on tonight is to remind you of two key bills that must be paid 2 times a year. And that's your Rotary International dues and your district dues. There's also 2 key dates. July 1st, when we begin the Rotary year, and then 6 months out, when we start the second part of the Rotary year on January 1st. Now, those 2 dates are critical in terms of determining your club's invoices from Rotary International in terms of your dues, and also from your district dues. And if you look at what I've underlined, the most important thing is that these dates, on these dates, Rotary takes a picture of your club on the last day of the year and on the last day of the fiscal year, and they count the number of members that you have in your club. And that becomes the factor that determines your Rotary International and your district dues. Now, in order for you to get down to your fighting weight on 31 December and 30 June, well, those 2 dates, in order to make sure you don't get charged for people that no longer attend your club, it's very critical that you work in tandem with your club secretary, and that you mutually agree that these are the numbers that we want to go into the new Rotary year with on 1 July. And these are the people that we want to go into the second half of the year on 1 January.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rotary International and the district invoice your club twice a year. And right now, your Rotary International dues are $75 per member per year, and your district dues are $51. I don't know the schedule of increase over time, but your Rotary International dues incrementally increase, and your district dues incrementally increase. These increases are very minimal. But in terms of how your invoice is calculated, we basically take that number 75 and 51, divide it by half, and multiply it times the number of members that are on your roll 1 July and 1 January. Now, one of the most important things that you need to know as a treasurer is how you're going to get that invoice. About 5 or 6 years, or maybe even longer, Rotary International and the district decided that it was pointless to be mailing you at the cost of mailing a hard copy invoice. So all of your invoices from Rotary International and the district are coming to you by email. And that's why it's so important that your treasurer has reported who your key officers are back on 31 December. And if those people have changed, that you've updated it before the beginning of a new Rotary year. Because these in the case of your Rotary International dues and in the case of your district dues, we're sending emails, and Rotary is sending emails to the president and the treasurer for your dues. Now, why semi-annual dues? Well, the primary reason is to minimize the upfront cost at the beginning of the year. But there's also the secondary cost of making sure that we don't get involved in a lot of gamesmanships with different clubs. One of the techniques, that is very obvious is that you get down to what I call the fighting weight. You drop people off your rolls, and then the first of the new Rotary year, 1 July comes, and all of a sudden there's 10 additional people on the rolls, and the same thing happens in January. So we're trying to smooth out the curve, if you will, to make sure that we have the correct number of people on the 1st of July. And then if you've been real successful in recruiting new members, we also capture some of that dues income in January. So that's the reason we do semi-annual dues. Minimize the upfront cost, but also to accurately keep track of your membership stream through the year. It used to be that the district sent their district dues out at the beginning of the Rotary year for the entire amount. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we said, that's really not fair to clubs. What we ought to do is synchronize the district dues with the Rotary International dues, so we take only half of our dues income at the beginning of the year and take the second half at the end of the year. Now, the critical thing, though, is that treasurers, club presidents, and secretaries have got to understand that number that you start your year with, that number is not going to change. If you don't get your people off your rolls, it's going to impact. You're going to pay extra Rotary International dues, and you're going to pay extra district dues. Okay, changing subjects now. All Rotary clubs are nonprofit organizations. Rotary clubs are nonprofit organizations that are recognized by the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, as 501c4. That means we don't have to pay income tax on anything we earn as a Rotary club. However, if your Rotary club wants to raise money, a lot of money, and be able to give the donors charitable contribution receipts, then you also have to have an entity or a vehicle that enables you to issue those certificates. That's why many Rotary clubs have formed foundations. For example, my Rotary Club, the Stafford Rotary Club, we have an operating account, which is a 501c4, which is primarily designed for our taking care of our Rotary members. And then we have a foundation that delivers our service projects, and it's recognized by the IRS. It has a 501c3 designation. So we have two entities. I'd only add one additional thing here. It's very important that your foundation board be quasi-independent of your regular club. And we've latched ours together in terms of our treasurer, for example, serves as the treasurer of our club, and he also serves as the treasurer of the foundation. but there's got to be there's got to be an independence maintained between your foundation and your club in order to maintain this these two designations. Okay. Because we're nonprofits, all Rotary clubs are required to file. And the thing that they try to make it as easy as possible for you. You file a return of organization exempt from income tax. Typically, everybody refers to it as a Form 990. Now, based on your revenue or how much money you run, there are different types of Form 990. In the case of our Rotary Club, we have an accountant that rolls that, files that for us. But in some cases, some Rotary clubs, the treasurer actually files the Form 990. That's up to you. The most important thing, though, is that you must file the Form 990 by the 15th of November. The IRS is set up so that all nonprofit organizations, that's the deadline. Just like, April 15th for people. For nonprofits, the date is November 15th. Now, there's a 6-month automatic. If you know that you're going to have any type of delay in filing your Form 990 by the 15th, all you have to do is request an extension, and then you've got until the 15th of May. Most accounting firms, when you turn over your books for the year, they automatically put in a request for an extension to the 15th. I try to get them to file it on the 19th, but they just do it automatically. Okay. Now, having dealt with what we have to do, these are some observations that I recommend that you consider as you go through your each year, as you work with your president and your leadership team. If you have two entities, if you have a club and a foundation, you need to develop a budget. I think you should develop a budget for both the operating accounts and the foundation. And an easy way to keep these things sorted out in your mind is the operating budget, or that budget that you're creating for the 501c4 entity is what the Rotary Club delivers for the benefit of Rotary members, and your foundation budget delivers your service projects. When you look at the areas of service that are defined by defined by Rotary, the things that line up with the operating budgets are these: club administration, your membership, your public image, things that your club does for your own club members. And your foundation budget is focused on your service areas: community service, youth service. If you have two entities, I'd ask you to just think about this. It's all well and good for money to go from your club side to your foundation. In other words, you can donate as much money as you want to your foundation, but you shouldn't be taking any of your foundation money and funding your club activities that primarily benefit Rotary members. And I think you can see the point there. Again, another recommendation to make sure that you go through a process every year. I recommend that your leadership team for next year try to put together a budget that you're going to be able to present to your members in the May timeframe. And then your membership at large gets the budgets approved before you start the Rotary year. And then the new leadership team has an approved budget for both your club and your foundation. Now, many clubs are interested in, or many members are, it's very important for them to know on a month-to-month basis, how you're doing both on your club side and your foundation. I recommend to you as treasurers that you try to give them a financial report every month. Rotary clubs have boards every month, or at whatever your frequency of board meetings, you basically should try to make sure they have up-to-date financial information prior to that board meeting. And then finally, I found from experience that QuickBooks is really good for keeping track of how you do your spending, and the DAC-DB financial module is improving all the time, and perhaps is the vehicle that you should consider for your financial records. Bottom line, I really urge you to consider monthly reports where you get your QuickBooks to pump out a balance sheet, profit and loss statement, and then you've loaded your budget in QuickBooks or your DAC-DB financial module. And then you can track how you're actually doing with your budget versus actual report. So that's some of the slides. And I'm going to go back to the top now, and we'll just go in sequence and see if there are any questions. Okay, any questions?
Just a comment for you, Jake. I was the club treasurer for my club for 3 years when I first joined Rotary. And just a note for people, that is one of the best jobs for getting to know your club members. And now my club, they paid your meals when you came in each week. So they paid me and I collected the money. But if you have new members and they are decent with math, then it's a great way, like say, you'll see them face to face every week or whenever the meetings are, and get to know them. And because you're taking the money and reporting out, you get to know everyone in the club really well, really fast. So I strongly recommend that as a way for new members to get integrated into the club.
Yeah, in my case, in my club, I still, I'm the bookkeeper, if you will, for the Stafford Rotary Club, and I put out the invoices quarterly in terms of our dues, our club dues. And you really get to know the 34 people or the 35 people that you send invoices to 4 times a year in our particular case. There's another thing too. I've never been the treasurer of my club, but we've had a treasurer that at a minimum does it for about 3 years. And at the end of the month, when he pays all the bills, he turns over to me, the bookkeeper, and I put everything in QuickBooks. So we check each other, the two of us, and we try to make sure that we are able to produce our financial reports within the first 5 days of the month. And we've got our board set up so that it always happens on the second week of the month, so that we have enough time, to balance reconcile the bank accounts, produce a report, so that all the board members get updated financial reports on a monthly basis. And we ask the lady that runs our web page to make sure that we post our monthly results every month for the benefit of all our members. You just look at it. If you're a member of the club, you can see what the balance sheet, profit and loss, and the budget versus actual month to month. Any other questions? Let me just run through. Any question on any of these slides?
Yeah, I think that the one you were just on, because you hit it before, Jake, but just to make sure everyone understands, there's no negotiation on the numbers with RI or whatever. What they get, if you haven't updated your numbers, you can't come back to them and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be X when it was Y on the 31st." That's it. You wind up getting billed, and that's what you're required to pay.
Yeah, let me put a little spin on this. The reason I think that Rotary International and why we in the district are the same way, you want to be fair to all concerned. And if you didn't maintain this discipline of saying, we're going to take a picture of your club on the 31st of December, we're going to take a picture of your club on 30 June. And whatever number that is, that's what you're going to get charged in terms of your semi-annual Rotary International dues and your semi-annual district dues. And the bottom line, that's fair to all concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just run down the thing. Again, emphasizing the key dates, because the invoices are calculated on the numbers that show up in the club on the 1st of July and the 1st of January. Your club secretary is a key person in making sure that you manipulate those numbers in DAC-DB. And your club secretary is an integral team member, making sure that you properly get credit for who's on your books.
Well, and one other note on that too, it goes back to, and you mentioned it, but the club, each of those officers needs to make sure if they've changed their phone number, if they've changed their email address for any reason, that they update it in DAC-DB. And example for my club, we used to have a PO box. We've changed the club address, making sure that is also updated, because RI will not accept as an excuse that, well, you sent it to a wrong address if you hadn't updated your address or your contact information. That's a responsibility of every Rotary Club and every Rotarian to make sure all that's up to date.
Absolutely correct. When I put out the district dues invoices twice a year, I pull out of DAC-DB that key information on the president, the secretary, and the treasurer, and I make sure that my email address book equals what they say in terms of the treasurer. We've been doing this now for about 4 years, and I'm real proud of the fact that when I send out the invoice, I only get maybe 1 or 2 bounces, which means that I didn't put the data in right, in terms of my address thing. So when I put out invoices to 53 clubs and nothing bounces in terms of the president or the treasurer, I know I've got good data. Okay, of the people that are on the call, can I get them to unmute and tell us who they are, so I can just annotate which treasurers are on here? Emily and Juliet. I know.
Hello, good evening. I am from the Rotary Club of Falls Church.
Which one?
Rotary Club of Falls Church.
Okay, so you're with Emily's with Falls Church.
Okay. Emily, what is your last name?
Emily Nazarale.
Okay, let me look at Falls Church here. Just one second here.
Yeah.
Look at my list. Okay. Okay, so you're, so Emily, you're not technically the treasurer, right?
No, sir.
Okay, what position do you have in your club?
I was the immediate past president of the club, and I am right now is the public image chair.
Okay, well, good. Well, we are really thrilled that you're on this call. Uh, and we're interested in this particular call, even though you're not technically the treasurer of your club. I have Joe Akara is your
Treasurer.
treasurer, right? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's Emily. And Juliet, I know you're a treasurer. Which club?
I am the president, sir.
Oh, you're the okay, so the reason I know your name is because when I sent the invoice out, I remember that name. So what club again?
Sorry, I am not the treasurer. I am the president.
I understand that. What club?
Falls Church, Rotary Club of Falls Church.
Okay, yes, I see that now. Juliet Barrido.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, we have Falls Church as well represented tonight. Okay, is there anybody else on the call?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
That's
well,
it.
Falls Church, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We're glad to have you. And as you're talking to, Rotary members, if you ever have any questions or any concerns, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. I'll be more than happy to work with all of you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
One other note, Jake, I think because you zip by slide 12, the one thing, and you hit all around this, but I'd like to make sure people understand that if you have a two account, or you should have two accounts, one for your foundation, if you have a separate foundation, 501c3, and you have a club, you should have two separate bank accounts, not one bank account with two sets of books. You should have two separate bank accounts, one for each of those, to keep them totally separate.
Absolutely. And in fact, yeah, you have to have separate bank accounts, and even though you technically, could run the books together, I think that's a very bad
Yes.
thing. We run separate books, separate accounts for both the club and the foundation.
Mhm.
And when we develop the budgets, during the year, we developed separate budgets, one for the foundation, one for the club.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I would recommend, if they aren't doing it, is when they're doing those budgets individually, they should be putting separate line items within the budget, say for administrative costs, for whatever, to break it down. It's not just one big pot of money that supposedly X amount is going to be spent for this or that. They should actually be accounted kind of by a line item where you keep track of what was allocated for that and then what was spent and what remains.
When we do our budgeting in our club, one of the things that we do is we take an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
And we look at we make some assumptions of how are we going to get that income. If we're going to charge our members so much for dues, that's your income. And then we look at our expenses, and we have three columns. We have the budget first, and income and expenses. It's got a balance for the current year. And then we have actuals in the middle. And then on the very right column, we have the previous year's actual spending. And what that does for us is that the actuals give us guidance as to the appropriateness of those items of expense. We have a storage locker.
Mhm.
Well, 5 years ago, it cost us $85 a month. And that has, through inflation, it now costs us $150. So it'd be pointless for us to continue to put $85 in the budget if we know that we have to come up with $115 for the thing. But all of that three-dimensional look in our budgeting process gives us a pretty, when we start the year, we have a pretty good notional budget. And reality, forces us to make adjustments in those known entities. For example, we've incorporated our two entities, and so the state of Virginia charges us $25 for the club and $25 for the foundation every year, and that's got to be in the budget.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And then for the president developing his budget, he should be doing it with you, the treasurer, by exactly what you were saying, is looking at what was spent last year and ideally the year before. So you have a good idea of, well, admin costs, paper, if you use printing ink, whatever those items are, raffle tickets for if you're doing a 50-50, all of this type of stuff are in there. So they can get a general idea of what it costs. And that gives them a good leg to start planning their budget, like you say, how much they're going to come in, what these things are going to cost, and then they can go from there.
And one of the things too is that, if anybody is ever interested, we've developed, I think, really some pretty good procedures over, the last 10 years or so. And there's no secrets about it. I mean, if anybody is interested to see how we do it, I'll send you the Excel spreadsheet. One tab on the bottom is the operating budget, and the next tab is the foundation. They're two independent things. Income, expenses, balance every year. And as I said, each one of those budgets has 3 columns: the current budget, actual expenses that we roll forward every month, and then comparing to the full previous Rotary year. That's the process.
Yeah. We had actually added a 4th column, which was just simply, you had your income that had been budgeted against, or which you allocated funds for. Then you had what was actually spent, and then we had last year's budget column too. So, but we had one was what was remaining from what was budgeted, what you had left in the budget that you hadn't spent, just so the president or the treasurer could see, okay, we've got $20 left here. So, and that will tell them if it's early in the year, well, we may need to talk about this again. But
what I'm sure most of the Rotary clubs in the district have learned over many, many years too, is that you've got to have, each entity basically has 2 accounts. You have a current operating account, checkbook, but you also have a money market reserve backing up that operating account. And it's the same thing on the foundation. So that, if you lose a funding source or something, you've got some reserves to keep you going. And that was particularly important during the COVID period. When we had to go into our reserves to keep come through that period. Okay. Anything else?
Well, I'll just mention one thing too for the treasurers, and this goes talking to the president. One of the other really good reasons for keeping a good budget like this is, you mentioned inflation for your storage shed. Well, I mean, when you've got a good budget showing like this, if you need to increase your dues, you can show it by the budget from last year to this year where costs have increased, but your funding has not, because you had set dues. So that's something that's good to have.
we just recently went from a club that used to charge for meals, and now we're not charging for meals because of
Mhm.
the change venue. And so we had to, before we began the Rotary year this year, we had to do some sensitivity analysis to make sure that we could cover our operating costs and the cost of our service projects.
Mhm.
We had to re-wicker everything and make sure that we had a notional budget that on these new assumptions. When you're not paying for meals, you can actually reduce the cost of your dues per year. And then some of our younger members came up with the idea of, we used to religiously send out invoices 4 times a year, for regular members, and we had a second category for millennials and special consideration. But we came up with an idea of, okay, if you invoice for the full year, you get a discount.
Mhm.
So we're experimenting with that this year, and what we did is we told our members, if you pay your entire yearly dues for the entire year by the end of the first quarter, which is coming up on 30 September, then you get a discount.
Sure.
In our case, it's $150 per quarter, so that would be $600 a year. But if you pay by the 30th of September, you only pay $500. And the same thing with the other category of the special consideration, $75 per quarter, which would be $300, and if you pay by the 30th, it's $62.50 per quarter as the discount. So it's a very interesting thing. We've had a number of people that took advantage of that discount. But I must say that when we did the budgeting, we tested to see if everybody took advantage of the discount. Did we have enough income to cover our expected budgeting? I mean, I did it both ways.
But that's what the budget allows you to do if you're doing it right.
Yeah, we did it. We made the assumption, okay, everybody, pays full dues by the 30th of June. Can we afford the discount is what we're really testing. Okay, I'm going to stop the share on this screen, all right?
Okay.
Anything else?
Anything from our two guests who joined us? I think we're down to, Juliet, anything?
As of now, I'm not, I can't ask,
Okay.
because we are just, we're a very, we're a very small club. And actually, we just send our dues to our treasurer, whenever he just email us and ask us, to send the dues. It's, we can pay quarterly, or, we can pay in full. Which is, it's not really a big amount for our membership. So there's not really, we haven't encountered any, problem on paying dues actually. So
Okay. Yeah, and there's different ways you can do it. Our club, we can pay, and in fact, we're encouraged to go to our website and pay by credit card on the website. There's a place where you go in.
That's a good idea. I mean, we don't have that. We usually just send a check to our treasurer.
Yeah,
and
we can do that also.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't encourage like Zelle, because our treasurer is not. He doesn't want Zelle. He just want check all the time, not even cash.
Yeah.
So just check.
Yeah, whatever easiest for each club. It doesn't make any difference how you do it, just so long as you do get the money.
Yeah, right, right. So yeah, so far we don't have any problem on those aspects.
Okay. Okay, well, if no one has anything else, Jake, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I was just looking since we have them with us, I was just looking at your district dues that I showed you with 16 members. Is that correct?
You're right.
And you were all taken care of. Your district dues are taken care of, and your Rotary International dues are taken care of. One of
Yes,
the things that
our treasurer is really very effective and very,
yeah,
he's really on top of that. So
That's good.
for example, I put the district dues invoices out on the 8th of July, and you wrote your check on the 16th of July. I got a copy of your check here. So
That's
you
good.
guys are good.
Okay. Well, if no one else has anything, then I think we can go ahead and close this out. I want to thank everyone on behalf of District Governor Renee for attending. She couldn't be here this evening because she's at a Rotary function down in Northern Neck. So that's why I'm the Chief of Staff and being here, seeing everything. Jake, I appreciate you coming in and giving everyone the class. It was well worth it. And I'm sure the people who view this, when we put this on to the Zoom link for people to pull up in DACDB and review it, will help them. So
Yeah, we're gonna keep
well,
this little
thank you.
briefing. We're gonna keep this little briefing available.
Thank
We'll
thank
update
you
it.
very much.
It is very informative for us.
well,
Yeah.
we're glad you could make it.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. So, but as Jake said, this will get posted to the DACDB Learning Center for the district. So you can have your treasurer look at it later on, or anyone else who might be interested in being treasurer, and please have them do it. So with that, I'm going to close it out and